the game that I think is most intriguing on the Christmas, New Year, Christmas weekend, New Year weekend schedules, I mean, happens on Christmas Eve. And that is, the Steelers and the Raiders in Pittsburgh playing 50 years and 1 day after the Immaculate Reception game. The most dramatic end to a big game in NFL history, and happened 50 years ago. And I think one of the things that we're going to find as we do some more reporting about the schedule is that weeks ago, I don't know how many, but weeks ago, the NFL viewed this as almost a tentpole game that they wanted to have on the anniversary weekend of when the Immaculate Reception was. They had Raiders at Steelers. And if you look at this play, we still don't know everything about the play. Terry Bradshaw almost sacked, throws, still don't know how he got an accurate pass away. It caroms off Tatum and maybe off Frenchie Fuqua. Franco Harris runs the ball into the end zone. So as the clock expires, the Steelers erase a 7-6 deficit and win the game 13-7. So this, and by the way, a lot of people won't really understand, but this was a game that I'm telling you haunted John Madden till the day he died. This was his most bitter defeat, and he, in fact, when I asked him 8 or 10 months before he died, about this game and talking about it, and actually he had the phone that Fred Swearingen called upstairs on in this game. He had the phone in his house, and I texted him. I said, I want to talk about it. And he said, no, we won't be talking about that game. And so this had some of the biggest drama ever. And look, Mike, I'll just say this, and I just finished writing something in my column last night for this. So the three big people in this play for the Steelers, Terry Bradshaw, Frenchie Fuqua, and Franco Harris, are all in their 70s, and they are all alive. We got to get them there that day for this game. And I know Terry's got a very, very rough relationship historically with the Steelers. But how incredible would it be that day to see those three guys out on the field, whatever, for some ceremonial whatever it is. I think that would be awesome.
Art Rooney, the owner of the team, said that they have events planned the day before, Friday the 23rd, the actual anniversary game played on Christmas Eve at night. Now, the Steelers usually don't like Heinz Field night games, in part because people got to go to work the next day and they don't get as many to show up, but it'll be a different vibe to have a home game at night on Christmas Eve. The NFL has typically avoided that whole, but they're leaning into Christmas now. They understand that the captive audience that you have at Thanksgiving is still there. They're back again 4 weeks later for Christmas. And what a time for that game. And Peter, I could go on and on about the Immaculate Reception game because that's when I discovered the NFL, December 23, 1972. We were the only house in the neighborhood that had that game on TV because we were picking up a channel that was outside of the blackout bubble. Back in those days, even if the game was sold out, it wasn't televised within 90 miles of the stadium. Nobody else in the neighborhood had it. House was full. And that place went crazy. And I didn't see grown-ups acting like that very often unless alcohol was involved when I was that age. And maybe some was, especially afterward. But that got my attention. That moment got my attention that whatever that thing is that they're watching must be pretty big for them to react the way they did. And, of course, it opened the – even though it took 2 years to win the Super Bowl, a lot of people think they won the Super Bowl that year. They did not. They lost to the Dolphins at home. The undefeated Dolphins had to go to Pittsburgh because it wasn't based on your record at the time. They hosted the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game. The Dolphins won. Yeah, it was just bizarre that the Dolphins would have had to go to Pittsburgh.
Mike, the other thing about that game and that period of time in Pittsburgh sports history. I would argue that in an 8-day period, there's never been two events as big in Pittsburgh history in such a short period of time. First of all, the Steelers win the Immaculate Reception game. People go crazy. And then the following Sunday, 4 hours after they lose to the Miami Dolphins, Roberto Clemente perishes in a plane crash trying to send disaster relief to Managua, Nicaragua, on an old plane, I guess, that they found a lot of problems in the intervening years and afterwards, and that plane just sort of it dropped into the Caribbean that night, and Roberto Clemente died. And basically that happened on New Year's Eve. So everybody in Pittsburgh woke up on New Year's Day 1973 trying to digest that the Steelers were out of it after losing. That's all they knew when they went to bed. And then they wake up to the news that Roberto Clemente, the biggest hero in the history of the Pirates, had died. And that was, I just can't imagine being alive in the city of Pittsburgh at the time and feeling the emotional swing that you must have felt over that week.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.